Welcome to Chris Parkin Shooting Sports. We've not done a Q&A for a couple of weeks because I've had the lurgy and I've not been doing anything, and it's been quite blissful actually not having to go shooting every day, so hooray. Anyway, let's get on with the questions that I've had over the last couple of weeks. Some of them I'm just going to come straight past because they're just utterly stupid. Some critical ones of the kit that's being reviewed or looked at, which we're going to skip over because they're just people's opinion. Difficult question there. If you had to have one, would you have this Pard or would you have the Wraith 4K Ultra? I think on an airgun or a rimfire I'd have the Pard. I think if I was going for centerfire I'd probably have the Wraith, but I haven't done that much with the newest Wraiths and I'm not just 100% sure about those yet. To be honest, I've had quite a lot of success with both, but whichever one you get used to is the one you're going to have the most success with. And both of them depend on the best illuminator, so make sure you're using a good illuminator. Skipping through these because a lot of them aren't really questions, they're just comments. It's so strange seeing a Brit with a rifle, love the content. That's from Zane, Nevada. Well, we do have them, you know, we do go hunting, we don't do anything with pistols much, and we don't do machine guns or semi-automatic or things like that, but think of us like hardcore California. Someone's complaining about shooting a 338 using the magazine from the rifle because it destroys seating depth. Well, unfortunately some people live in the real world and some people surf the internet, and yes, you can have seating depth problems with recoil, but it depends what you're using for neck tension. It depends whether you're soft seating, hard seating, whether you're chasing the lines, whether you're crimping the necks, whether you're using tightly sized necks, loose necks, whichever. So, you know, keep it to yourself if you want. Some guy who can shoot 0.75 inch 10 shot groups at 500 yards with a 300 Win Mag says I'm an idiot, basically. He says I should do more research before mouthing off. But you know, he can shoot 0.75 inch 10 round groups at 500 yards, so he's clearly the superior being. That was, let's just say, Robert Lane he was called. I actually challenged him. I said, Robert Lane, I shall look forward to seeing that video on your channel. No more words from him. What a surprise. Yeah, he said, I don't preload the bipod. Well, the thing is, yeah, when you preload a 338, it still kicks a bit because it's a 338, so it's not like preloading a 223, is it? Someone said that Derek Whipple, I think Ticker ended up switching all their threads from metric to imperial because most of the market is in the US. Probably quite true, actually. Threads are what threads are. I think the finer pitches are a bit better, so the metric 1mm pitch or the sort of 24 TPI imperial seem to work quite well. Someone says, are you Mid Wales by any chance? Yes, I was in Mid Wales by any chance. Jack B. Chris, will you review the Thermtech thermal spotters? Would like to hear what you think of them. Never heard of them. I don't really do a lot with thermal stuff because nobody's paying me to look at it. I haven't got the time. I have so much to do with rifles. Someone wants to change the magazine on CZ557. Well, unfortunately the CZ557 is probably no longer in production anyway, so you're a little bit late to the party on that one. The new 600 is it's had a few teething problems, but it will be here shortly. I'm suspicious I might get one myself within a few weeks, but we shall see. Vince Belmonte, thank you from Canada. I'll give some questions here. Right. Christian sorry, my pronunciation is not very good. I'm still a little bit hoarse from my lurgy last week as well. Could you please comment on sighting in? I had the NV008 and common problem was that after centering the reticle was way off centre. The only way to fix that was to use special adjustable mounts. Is this still an issue? Well, the simple fact is that long time ago we used to have moving reticle scopes, so they didn't always appear in the centre of the tube. You don't see many these days. Some of the old PCAR scopes, just optics, you might see it with those, and when it was zeroed it wasn't in the centre of the tube. Now, we then moved on to moving image scopes, which is pretty much everything you've probably ever seen in a normal rifle scope. So the reticle effectively stays in the middle of the tube and they move the image around so it looks like it's zeroed. Essentially that's how it works. Now with digital night vision or digital thermal imaging, etc., etc., essentially you've got a fixed camera taking a picture and displaying that picture to you. Now, where the rifle is pointing on that picture is where it puts the reticle effectively, and that's not necessarily in the middle of the picture because of the various alignment issues with everything that's going on, and the fact that these things are made to be adjustable because they can be going on virtually any rifle. So it's a moving reticle, not a moving image. So it's completely opposite to a regular daytime optical rifle scope in modern use. So, yes, it can end up off-centre, and the thing is, it will then skip to the centre when you zoom in because the field of view is being changed and you've got more space within the image screen, and that's why it looks in the middle at high magnification but not necessarily at low magnification. There is nothing wrong with anything, that is how it is supposed to be. But when you change magnification you might see it move slightly. That doesn't mean you've lost zero. Now if you want to shim the scope so that it is working with it in the centre, that's entirely up to you. Personally, as long as I don't have an overall adjustment problem, I have got not enough time to worry about things like that, because to be honest, I'm concentrating what I can see around the reticle anyway, and if that's not in the middle of the screen I'm probably not paying that much attention to it. So, you know, night vision, thermal imaging stuff, it's optically compromised anyway compared to sort of a £2,000, £3,000 ultimate daylight rifle scope. You know, you're just not going to ever get the same image quality, the same image comfort. So you accept some compromises, and at the end of the day you're getting a hell of a lot of capability for sort of £600 or £800 from a digital night vision scope. So I don't worry too much that it's not, you know, absolutely perfect in the real world as long as it works. So yeah, you can get adjustable mounts if you want to do it, but I'm not going to waste my time doing that because it has no real technical benefit unless I absolutely have to. Someone's got a really long question here, just talking about their press, that's okay. That was Trey Orr, thank you Trey. Marty Bennett, hi Chris, you reviewed the Bergara B14 trainer rifle in 22LR a few months back. Although you like it, you said it had a problem with soft strikes. Do you know if Bergara have remedied this, or is it any feedback from my colleagues? Right, I've just finished reviewing the BMR, which is the Bergara micro rimfire. It's a slightly different action to the B14 rimfire, but it's using similar, you know, they've got certain design styles which are in-house. Now, a lot of rimfire companies use like a chisel tipped a firing pin, which, you know, is like a sharper surface that strikes the primer. Bergara used a spherical tip firing pin, which is a little bit more, you know, visually similar to a centerfire rifle. Obviously it's on the rim, not the centre, but the shape of it's the same. And I did experience a lot of soft strikes with an early B14 HMR rimfire. It was the carbon barrel one, the barrel didn't make a difference. And when I looked at the actual bolt with the bolt decocked and the firing pin projecting, it didn't project particularly far. And I suspect that was an early model, and it was giving me soft strikes, and it spoiled it because I did like the rifle otherwise. Anyway, move on, a year and a half, whatever it is. I've just had a BMR, which is the lighter, more sort of sporting rifle, or suitable for people, you know, slightly lighter build, slightly smaller size. It's a really nice gun. I've enjoyed shooting it, and it has exactly the same. It's a different action, but it uses the same shape firing pin. It's a spherical tip firing pin, and the projection of it seems a little bit longer, and I haven't had any problems with it whatsoever. So I'm going to put the Bergara issue down to a one-off that wasn't dealt with at the time correctly. And I have no other problems with it. A good friend of mine's got a current B14 HMR rimfire, and he loves it, no problems at all. So, you know, early on, I get a lot of early guns, prototypes and things that have been absolutely battered and hammered around gun shows and all sorts of things. Other people may have used them, the manufacturer may not have updated them or refined them after some of the feedback, because sometimes reviewers give manufacturers feedback and then the manufacturer sends the same gun to another reviewer who says exactly the same thing and they still haven't listened. But there we go. Right, skip through a few there. Hello, can I use this for my 6.5 in the rear as I use Bipod up front? He's talking about the Caldwell Tap Driver X rifle bag. It's a bit big for that, but you could if you really wanted to. It's a bit more of a front bag really. But Jack B, hello Chris, what moderators would you recommend for 3006? Something reasonably loud, I don't know, a Hausken, Ledamper, Wildcat. It depends where you are in the world in terms of which manufacturers will make any sense to you whatsoever. I've used Sony moderators, DPT. I use mostly DPT and Wildcat these days because they support me. They send me a lot of moderators with the correct threads I need for whichever rifles. I have no problems with them. I do quite like the Wildcats because they do keep... The thing with the moderator which you can take apart, I don't take them apart for cleaning, but I do take them apart sometimes to change the thread adapters to use on different rifles. And the Wildcat ones are easy to take apart. They don't gum up and sort of lock solid with carbon baked on residue. You can use ceramic greases and things as well to stop them doing that, but they've been very good. But the DPTs are a bit more compact, a bit lighter weight. I'm a big fan of those on my foxing rifle, which has been a great gun to use. I like them on the rimfire as well because they are compact and lightweight. Jack B again, is the Drone Pro or EVX10 still the gold standard of MV scopes? Don't know, never used one. Go by what people say if you want. I've never used one. The Digex C50 has looked impressive, but I haven't actually had one for a long-term review, so I can't comment too much on them. Jack B again, hello Chris, what bullet weights would you recommend 3006 on fallow, seeker or red? Some folks say 165 to 170 is the 06 sweet spot. Keep up the great vids and reviews, keep the content. Thank you very much, Jack B. Right, for fallow, seeker or red, you won't go far wrong with anything between 150 and 180. Generally speaking, 165, 170, you're just not going to have any problems with it. You're going to have more, there'll be more effect by who the ammunition's made by, how accurate it is in your rifle, how consistent it is in your rifle, how fast it is, how much recoil it produces, and how the bullet expands in actual use. Personally, most of my 3006 shooting was on wild boar anyway, so I was using 180s, and I don't think I've ever shot a deer with a 3006. I can't remember, but I do like 3006 a lot, and you know, anywhere 165 to 180 you're in the sweet spot for the cartridge. It doesn't seem that much point shooting 150s unless you desperately want to drop the recoil a little bit because you're not getting the sectional density benefits of the heavier bullet. 3006 are often a 10-inch twist compared to some 308s which are 12, so they're a little bit more tuned up for that. So I'd go 165 to 180 somewhere, you won't go far enough. Jedi 5150, this was helpful for me. He's talking about the review of the Seiko S20. He clearly didn't pay attention to what I found with the one I had, but there we go, it's his choice. Got some language that's maybe Russian or something. I haven't got Google Translate immediately on this one. Someone saying, just watch 557 video, I'm buying one immediately. Great, that's very nice. Anything else? CZ457 long range, hello and thanks for your review. Is your bipod a Caldwell? No, it'll be a genuine Harris probably on that rifle back then. Most of my bipods are genuine Harris. I just find they never break. They get swapped from rifle to rifle to rifle and they just don't have a problem. I have a Harris, he says he has a Harris 457 synthetic but can't mount the front stud on the front stud. He can't mount it on the front stud as the second stud is touching the swivel. So the tensioning knob on the back. I'm not really sure about that because I've had a 457 synthetic and used a Harris bipod on it. So unless there's been a change or perhaps the stud on yours is loose, sticking out a little bit more, I'm not sure. Check that out because at the end of the day, take the stud out if you're not using it. It's no great loss to humanity. Right, Antonio Licelli. Hi Chris, I just bought a new Brocock 12 foot-pound air rifle and would like to upgrade my scope from the budget Hawk I currently have. I will be using the rifle mostly for pest control. My question is, would you recommend an all-in-one day-night scope like the Sightmark Wraith HD, which I have heard you praise many times and is now available at a discount, or spend a little more on a separate scope, an NV add-on? Thanks in advance, Antonio. Good question, that Antonio. I think, to be quite honest, on an air rifle, which can get so much use day and night, is not particularly a ballistic stretch for any great long distance shooting, but you do want to get the most out of it. I would be very tempted by one of the inexpensive day-night vision digital scopes, because they give you so much performance. And I say that the place where you really get the absolute best from them is when you go through dusk, where you would normally years ago have switched from a daylight optic and then gone to a night vision optic. These ones just don't, because they just blend through, and eventually you'll switch from colour mode to black and white mode for the improved night vision performance. But in that witching hour, as I call it, after dusk, they are just awesome, and you just see things that you would never see before through a daylight scope. And you know, you're paying 400, 600, 800 pounds for these optics, and they're just going to give you far more hunting performance, if legal, than even a £2,000 daylight optic, because they're just creating the image from the pittance of light they've got available to them. So yeah, if you can get one that fits okay, I would definitely be thinking that, because to be honest, if you're not happy with a budget Hawk scope, you're probably expecting a lot, and you're going to have to spend a lot of money to go a large margin up from that budget Hawk scope, because to be fair, Hawk scopes are pretty reliable usually. So yeah, I think in your kit situation, I'd go as you say, and maybe go up to the digital night vision. Oh, another one. What's the scope you're using on the CZ457 long range? It's probably a Schmidt & Bender, because it looks like a Schmidt & Bender and it says Schmidt & Bender on it. I do hate people who just don't watch the video. Oh, we got one here. 12 days ago. Doomfather. Oh, that's a good name. I probably won't read that, because basically saying he can't sell his guns because all the gun shops are full of guns and nobody's paying any money for them. Unfortunately, there's nothing I can do about that. I have to agree, it is somewhat of a fear, because nobody knows what's going to happen, but he's Doomfather. He might be assuming it's all doom and gloom, and I'm maybe not assuming it's doom and gloom, and after using a lot of non-toxic and different ammunition types, I don't think it's a dead end, actually. Yes, things will change, prices will change, but if you want to keep shooting, you can keep shooting, because alternatives are available. You might have to change things around a little bit. I think it's a deep subject. I've done a lot of discussion on it with people, and it's way more than I can do in a Q&A session, because I'll talk for hours non-stop about it. Somebody's put, you mentioned large small hand in this video. I have to ask, what glove size are you? I wear large, which is maybe an 8 or an, I don't know, is it we don't know. I have large hands. They're that size. I don't know how big's that. That's a computer mouse. They're about normal large size. I have got quite short thumbs though, apparently. Right, we've had one here. Oh, this was the a huge one that came in 13 days ago, and I did promise I would reply to this. I will put a picture of this on, because it's quite a big one actually. This is to Al, and he's right. Let me just quickly spin through this. I'll probably speed this up when I go through it. Since I last wrote to you, and then I booked on 243. Short listen journey comes to conclusion. Right, essentially, I wouldn't buy a 243, because if we don't know what happens, the last thing you want to be doing is having a new 243 that we have no idea what we can do for ammunition with. We certainly can't go near 100 grains in a 243 rifle without, so there might need to be law changes in that respect as well. Whilst I appreciate as a hand loader the 308 is less flexibility on bullet size weight than 3006, it does seem to be adequate for European driven born kicks less than 3006, so it's appealing to me. However, the difference between the 308 and 3006 is not very big at all. It's maybe 100 feet per second on the heavier end of the bullets. The feeding of the 3006 I think is a little bit smoother in some rifles, but it's not a deal breaker in any respect. Can you please expand on how big an issue you found this to be when using a 308 Helix, and whether relying on it for fast reloading on a wild bore drive is too big a risk? Right, well, you've hit the nail on the head. You have listened to what I've said, and yes, read what I said in the past, because in a Helix particularly, I found the 3006 long slim case just feeds better than the effectively shorter 308. It's just going to steer itself better because it's still going to ride over the bolt abutments out the magazine, etc, etc. And longer cases just seem to feed a little bit better because you've just got more control throughout the whole reloading issue. That's not an absolute rule, but just generally speaking, that's why I like 3006. Right, Emil Muritzen, much difference price range, but how does it stand up against the K95? Right, this is a question of the Bergara BA13. How does it stand up against the Blaser K95? It's an entirely different gun. The Bergara is about the same price as the scope mounts for the Blaser. Totally different price envelopes. In terms of actually hunting and hitting what you need to hit to put food on the table, not a huge amount, but the Bergara is a tool to do the job. The Blaser is a delightful rifle. It is one of the nicest rifles I've ever used, the K95. I had an Ultimate Carbon a couple of years ago, and it's the most expensive rifle I've ever reviewed. It had a very expensive scope with it as well. It was utterly beautiful to shoot. Nothing stunningly more accurate than anything else. Everybody's so obsessed by accuracy, but it was a delight to shoot, to handle, to load, to travel with, to walk with. It was just an utter delight of a rifle, and the Bergara is the same thing at a tenth of the price, realistically, if not less. I think the K95 I had was about £9 retail. I can't remember because I did find the price out and I was terrified and I sent it back 2 days later because I didn't want to be holding on to it. But anyway, yeah, so the K95, it's a totally different breed. But essentially, the gun does the same sort of thing, just in a different way, and it's like saying, what's the difference between, I don't know, what's the difference between a £100 bike and a £1,000 bike? What's the difference? You know, you still ride them the same. Yeah, right. Gary Sides has commented on the Bergara BA13. He likes the BA13. Good for you, Gary. I rather like it as well too. And then Nick Corbett's put about the Wallet Group Bangers video, or Braggers video. Yes, because everybody goes, oh, I've shot this group and I keep it forever. Like that idiot earlier who said he shoots 0.75 inch groups at 500 yards. You know, I'm sure he's a world champion that we've just never heard of. But yeah, people who keep tiny little groups in the wallet and say, oh, I'm a gun does this every time. You know, I shoot so many guns and some of them are stunningly priced. I was out the other day with an 11,000 quid Steyr. Is it fundamentally, stunningly more accurate than its competition? No. Because your ammunition is always going to be the weak spot. The shooter's always going to be the weak spot. The gun is the most consistent from shot to shot to shot there is. So there's no point bragging on about some group, you know, unless you are actually, by definition, having a gun that does it every time, and you're doing that too. You know, for example, everybody talks about bench rest. I did shoot a few bench rest matches years ago when I first got into it because I liked the fact that, you know, your aggregate's taken over 25 rounds. It's 5 shot groups at 100 yards in the wind that everybody else has got next to you on the range. Everybody's on a level playing field, and you know what? Yes, there are some stunningly small groups, but you also realise very quickly that all these mythical things that are allegedly happening often do not. And actually, getting a sub half minute of angle aggregate over 25 rounds is quite an achievement. And I was just shooting a factory rifle. I was shooting a Seiko 75 22-250, which is not exactly a bench rest gun. I think I agged over a whole day about 0.65 of an inch, and I was thrilled with that because I was in the same conditions as everybody else, and you know, everybody else was shooting. There were some great guns being used there, and there were proper race guns and everything, light guns, heavy guns, the lot. 6mm PPCs and blah blah blah. And you know, I thought it was a great day out, and I'm very happy with how I did with that, and that's how I know that realistically an aggregate is an aggregate, and one group and one wallet bragging thing is just so unimpressive, because going all the way back to the start of tonight's Q&A, you've got one guy who claims he shot a group, and it's just so uninteresting, and it basically like holding up a flag and saying, I am just full of bull. Anyway, thank you for watching. Please like, subscribe and comment. And comment on this video, because the comments on this video and all your questions over the next week or two, up until I do my next question and answer video, I will address in some form or another. The more interesting you make them, the more likely you are to get a response from me. So please, Owen, there's a guy called E-Rock Outdoors who's very upset by the fact my collar was up the other week. It seems to have really affected his life. Anyway, thanks for watching. Bye for now.